Peace, family. This is your brother, Marc Lamont Hill. Welcome to Night School. Every night here on the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel, we hold Night School, where we break down the most controversial conversations, the most intense debates, the most pressing issues going on in the world today. Shout out, by the way, to Jay Dilla. Y'all always ask me who's on the shirts. This is the legendary Jay Dilla and OK Player. Shout out to both of them. This is the last week in August. And one of the things that we have to talk about, one of the things that I have wanted to talk about with you all is Black August. Normally we talk about Black August all month. These elections and these controversies and my own stuff has stopped us from making that happen as much as we like to, but I don't want anybody to forget the legacy of Black August. We'll talk about it later in the week even more, but this is the month where those of us, especially in the United States, have our minds fixed on freedom in terms of the Black radical tradition, the Black freedom struggle. It's a month where liberation struggles have happened. It's a month where prison outbreaks have happened. It's a month where many of our martyrs have died, but many of our heroes have survived. And so we always show great love, solidarity, and power in Black August as we use it as a time to reflect. As George Jack said, to put aside our petty quarrels and to come together to think about the struggle for human liberation, but especially for Black liberation. And that's why we talk about Black August. Anyway, y'all, welcome to Night School. Once again, if you have never been here before, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Let folks know where you're writing in from too. Hit present in the comment well as you come into the room. Hit present so we know you're here. But tell us where you're present from, what city, what state, what country. We get people all over the world. Why? Because this is a global classroom. All right, y'all, let's get started. Tonight, we're going to talk about, so it's kind of ridiculous, but it's kind of not. It's Donald Trump. Donald Trump. Y'all's president, some of y'all's president. He ain't looking good these days. The more time that he spends on the campaign trail, the worse he seems. He's always been like a rambler on the campaign trail. He's always been somebody who isn't precise or interesting as an orator, right? He ain't captivating. He's effective, but he ain't captivating. But what Donald Trump has been doing lately is getting more and more bizarre. He talks longer. He makes less sense. He says more ridiculous things. He tells more extravagant lies. Now, yesterday was maybe the worst time I've ever seen Donald Trump have on a stage. He was in Detroit and he was addressing the National Guard convention. That's a home game. Those are his folk. Those are his people. And the man couldn't get his words out. Now, there have been questions about why, but before I get to the why of it, I want you to see this for yourself. Ask yourself, why would Donald Trump look and sound like this?
My opponent, Kamala Harris, and Tim Walz are promising the exact opposite. They want endless war, open borders, voting rights, and free health care for illegal aliens. Soviet-style price controls, censorship, unlimited migration from terrorist hotspots, and unchecked power for the deep state. This fight is no longer between Democrats and Republicans. This is a fight between communism and freedom. My opponent, Kamala Harris, and Tim Walz.
Listen to this part one more time.
Promising the exact opposite. They want endless war, open borders, voting rights, and free health care for illegal aliens.
So there's a few things here. By the way, you notice he started saying her name right, which for some of y'all isn't a big deal. For me, it's an interesting strategy. Initially it was, let's say her name wrong on purpose to get the left outraged so the right can be mad at the left, or really so that racists can be mad at the Black people defending. But that's another story for another time. Donald Trump looked out of sorts, particularly the top. A lot of people on social media ask the question, is Donald Trump high? Is Donald Trump drunk? Does Donald Trump need medical attention? Now, let me say this first. I'm not a doctor. So I don't know what Donald Trump has a medical condition or not. Just like I don't know what Joe Biden had as a medical condition or not. But I'll say this in response to the people, not me, but the people who say Donald Trump looked high and drunk and or out of sorts. I know lots of cocaine users. I worked in TV. I worked in entertainment. Never used it a day in my life, so I can only speak from the outside. But Donald Trump's behavior, his sweating, his rambles, his moods are very consistent with folk who use cocaine or people who take what they call Diet Coke or Adderall. Some of Trump's insiders, some of Trump's former staffers have said that he uses that particular drug a lot. Other people think he's just not mentally stable. That Donald Trump is not mentally stable. I find this interesting how mainstream media talks about this and how the mainstream audiences deal with this. Let's say, for example, hypothetically, that Donald Trump is losing it right now, that he's not mentally well. Why is that the breaking point for you? The man has called to build walls around the country. He has led public health policy that has killed hundreds of thousands of people. He has trampled on the rights of LGBTQ plus folk. He has led the charge to dismantle any kind of Supreme Court protections or constitutional protections vis-a-vis stuffing the Supreme Court with right-wing ideologues. He has undermined rule of law. He has done all of these things, and people are like, yeah, but you know what? He might be on coke. So if he's on coke, then we've had enough. Or he's taking the Adderall pills too much. That's over the top. He was president for 4 years. We've seen the consequences of the Trump presidency. Why is this the bar? It's just a fascinating thing. I'm not prudish around drugs. I'm not prudish around mental health. To me, his public policy is enough, but it's weird that the Democrats are now using this as a talking point. And it's a fascinating talking point because they spent so much time defending Joe Biden. Now, there is a really interesting argument to be made that, if Joe Biden was not mentally well to be president, why the hell did you think Donald Trump was? If Joe Biden was too old to be president, why the hell would you think Donald Trump was? But it seems as if the only person who was being called to step down because they weren't mentally fit or physically capable of being president was Joe Biden. The truth is, Joe Biden absolutely did not deserve to be president anymore. He was not healthy. But Donald Trump ain't healthy either. There's nothing about Donald Trump that says well or healthy. So to me, that's the real question. Why is Trump why is he not held to the same scrutiny? That's all I'm saying. And then another thing, a lot of what y'all are hearing, this is a petty minor point, but I just got to say it. The main reason Donald Trump sounds slurred is not because he's on drugs, although he could be. I can't say for sure. The main reason he sounds like that is because he wears dentures, and for whatever reason, whatever dentures he uses don't stay in his head very well. His dentures be falling out worse than Joe Biden. Both of them have dentures and they fall out. So when you hear Donald Trump talking, that's why I told you I played the topic in. When you listen to Joe Biden talking or when you listen to Donald Trump talking now, what you hear is an old man with dentures. And lots of old men with dentures sound like the teeth are falling out of their head. Why? Because their teeth is falling out of their head. All right. I got a question coming in. I'm going to answer. And I'm going to answer it because y'all not going to play me up in this piece. Roni Sherry says, why do you know lots of cocaine users? Marc Lamont Hill. I'm writing a note to myself. That's why I'm pausing here. tell y'all a quick story. Y'all want Uncle Mark to tell y'all a story real quick? Here we go. All right. So why do you know a lot of cocaine users? First of all, Miss Ronnie or Ronnie Sherry or Ronnie Sherry. I don't know that many cocaine users, but I know a lot of cocaine users. I'm gonna tell you why. I found most of the cocaine users that I know at Fox News. So when I first started doing television, I was on Fox News. That was my first major TV job. I was a contributor to the network. That meant that I would go on shows as a paid contributor. I would go on Bill O'Reilly's show. I would go on Hannity and Combs. I would go on a show called Red Eye that Greg Gutfeld hosted. I would go on Fox and I go on all the shows, not all of them, but most of them. And after maybe 6 months or a year, I got really cool with a lot of the people. I had a great time with some of those hosts. Some of them, it's like pro wrestling. Some of them were really adversarial and right wing on TV and off air. They were normal people. Now, at some point, I realized that if you're that normal off air and you're willing to be that person on air, then you're a terrible person. And so I stopped rocking with them. But when I first was working, I would go out with them from time to time, especially like 2 different shows. And I remember hanging out with them. And we go out for drinks and they drink and get drunk. And, you know, it was mostly white people because it's Fox News. I think I was the only Black person there, except one other person at times. And they would get drunk. Cool. I didn't get drunk. I would drink, but I wouldn't get drunk. You know what I mean? I just don't feel comfortable. I don't get drunk like that rarely. And I don't know them, right? So I would go out with them. Then they started getting more comfortable around me. And then they started getting high. And they was like, dude, I want to get high tonight. And I'm thinking they're going to smoke weed, pass the L, pass, you know what I mean? And if they're going to smoke some weed, like, again, not my twist. You know, if we were all out, would I smoke weed with them? Maybe just to have a funny story. But I never did. But what I realized is when they were saying getting high, they were not talking about weed. I remember I would go out with Fox News hosts. And there was one night in particular where like there was at least 5 major Fox News hosts out. I'm not gonna say who they are because I don't move like that, but they were out. We were all out. And I had just done a show. It was me, who else? Ann Coulter was there. And like a bunch of other Fox News people. And we were out. Then after like 2 drinks, they started going in the bathroom together, disappearing. It would be like 2 dudes going in the stall together. Then it was like 2 dudes and a woman going in the bathroom together. And I'm like, yo, these Fox News people is wild. Like they be getting it. They some freak shit right now, right? So and I was like, and a couple of these dudes would go in the bathroom together. I was like, is they gay? I didn't think dude was gay. You know, there's gay people there, but I didn't think these particular people were gay. And they were going in the men's bathroom together. And these were like single stalls. And I'm like, why is they going to the bathroom, like a single person bathroom together? And I was like, okay, whatever they doing, that's my business. No name, no blame. I'm gonna have my drink and go the fuck home, right? And then after like the 3rd time they went in the bath, and it's over like an hour, like they kept going in, and Ann Coulter wasn't far from me, and I said, yo, why can't they get a hotel room? Why are they fucking here? And Ann was like, Mark, they're doing coke. Duh. And I was like, oh shit, they do coke. Now again, where I grew up, people didn't do coke. You know, there's people that did crack, like you know, people who, you know, had drug addictions, right? But like everyday people I knew didn't just do coke. I knew people that smoked weed. I knew people that drank too much. I didn't know people that did coke. These motherfuckers was packing into the bathroom and just doing line after line after line and going back and getting higher and higher. And it did until Ann said to me, like, yo, they doing coke. I was like, oh shit. Then like maybe like 2 weeks later, they got even more comfortable. So now they didn't even go to the bathroom no more. They start doing coke like that's what you're supposed to do, right? Like, yo, dude, great show, great segment. Next week we got to turn it up a notch. I'm like, what? You're talking to me like you're not sniffing coke off your hand. And after like 2 weeks, I just stopped going out with them because again, like I don't do drugs. I don't have a judgment about people who do drugs. If you're not harming anybody, if you're not stealing from anybody, if you're taking care of the people you need to take care of, it's not my business. But it was just wild. And what made it so wild to me is that a lot of these people, a lot of these Fox News hosts that are doing all this cool are the ones going on TV talking about drug-free America, Christian values, the body is the temple, harsh drug sentences for those addicts. It's like, you can't have it both ways. Don't tell me as a network that you are against something when in your real life you are for something. Don't tell me you are against drugs when you are actually doing drugs. Don't tell me that you demonize coke when you do coke. And Fox News does a lot of coke. That's all. Thought y'all might want to know that. Let's move to another story. Did y'all like that story? But if you like this story, hit the like button. Hit the like button, man. Hit the like button. Let me know what you think about that. Anyway, Nina Turner hit the news today. She is, and if you don't know Nina Turner is a progressive pundit, political activist, and former Ohio State senator. And she was at the Democratic National Convention last week. And while she was there, like a lot of people, Nina did some interviews. And one of the interviews was with the Free Press. And I'm a Nina Turner fan. I appreciate Nina. I've interviewed Nina a bunch of times. I like what she generally has to say. She was one of Bernie Sanders' major allies, pulling the Democratic Party to the left. She's run for public office. She's always honest and principled. So I got a lot of good things to say about Nina Turner. But she said something that I couldn't fully make sense of. And so I want to talk about it. She said that with the Free Press, and she was asked why so many Black men support Donald Trump over Kamala Harris. And her answer was patriarchy. I agree. No doubt about it. Absolutely patriarchy. But she said more, and it was the more that had me.
What's your read on why so
the more had me just a little bit confused. Let's check it out. Peep this.
many Black men, Hispanic voters have found in Trump something to admire, something even to vote for?
Madam Editor, I'm glad you asked me that question. For me, the Democratic Party emasculates Black men.
Wow.
And I think Hispanic men probably feel the same way. And I say this because they weaponize identity. When and where we enter, who we are, how we identify is important to who we are, just like our fingerprints. But if you're not going to use my identity to advance a social justice cause, and you're just going to use my identity as a blunt force object, now I got a problem. So what the Democratic Party does, they put Black women on a pedestal and they say, we're the mothers of the movement, or we saved the party. But yet you don't put forth policies that save Black babies. You don't put forth policies that deal with the maternal death rate of Black women and Black babies in the United States of America. You don't do those things that lift and edify. Yes, identity is important. Both parties use it differently. Republicans use it to say that everybody Black or brown or of a mixed race is somehow kind of way a DEI hire. They use it to say certain books will be banned. Don't tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth about how this country was formulated, because you might hurt a white child's feelings by saying that, yeah, chattel slavery existed. And oh, by the way, white powerful folks stole the land from the indigenous people. So all of those things, Chinese Exclusion Act, I mean, we can go down the list, but Democrats use it in a way that alienates other folks, and it offends me. So when I talk to Black men across this country, they don't see themselves in this party. It's one thing to recognize the power and prowess of Black women and the sacrifices that we make. It is another thing to put us above Black men. The Black struggle, Black men and Black women have to be together. We don't have the luxury to be separated. And so I resent the Democratic Party for doing that. And so Black men do not see themselves in the party. That bravado, because we got a kind of masculine energy, and masculine energy is not all bad, but the type of bravado that Trump puts forward is still very much rooted in a hierarchical patriarchy. Mm-hmm. And a lot of men gravitate to that.
So what do y'all think about what Nina Turner just said? My opinion is that there's a lot of truth in it. But there's some missing pieces, and it's the missing pieces that are dangerous. All right. So let me start with this preface. The Democratic Party deserves a lot of criticism. The Democratic Party exploits identity politics. She is correct. The Democratic Party plays on identity politics. It's the only way you can replace a white male imperialist neoliberal warmonger with a Black woman version of it and expect people to think that the whole world is different. Now, again, there are practical and critical reasons. There are pragmatic and strategic reasons to vote for Biden or for Kamala Harris or for whoever. But it doesn't negate the cynicism that the Democratic Party is operating from when they say, look, it's all different. They look like you, they act like you, they have the same gender as you, right? Identity politics can make you think that the biggest issue with Harvard University is that they got rid of the Black woman president, which is true, and it was grounded in white supremacy and racism, and it was completely wrong, and Claudine Gay was mistreated, the whole nine. But underneath that is a bigger question of empire. It's a bigger question of the neoliberal technocratic university. It's a bigger question of what capitalism does and how Black people can become the Black face of it. So the imperial part of it gets ignored, the neoliberal part gets ignored, and we focus on the identity politics at a superficial level that then makes it impossible for us to have a radical class critique or radical analysis of any sort. So I stipulate that. So Democratic Party, trash for that. But to say that the Democratic Party is emasculating Black men, I think is problematic because it plays into the very patriarchal system and structure that she is identifying and critiquing. It is true that the Black men that identify with Donald Trump are probably closing ranks around patriarchy. That's an absolute fact. We also have to be very mindful to not overstate the amount of Black men that are voting for Donald Trump. Black women are the most loyal party to the Democratic. Black women are the most loyal demographic to the Democratic Party, you know. But the second most loyal demographic is Black men. And there's a way sometimes that because Black men only vote for Democrats at like the 85% rate instead of like the 89 or 90% rate, that they're seen as this group with false consciousness and misdirection, and as if the misdirection is not vote and the false consciousness it only hinges upon whether or not they're Democrats. It also plays into the idea that Democratic Party is entitled to Black people's votes. So again, stipulate those critiques, but at the core here is a question about whether the Democratic Party is emasculating. What does it mean to emasculate Black men? How are they emasculating Black men? That to me misses the point. And the reason why I'm highlighting this is because it lets Democrats off the hook for what they're actually doing, but it also lets men off the hook, Black men off the hook for appealing to patriarchy. And it also lets Donald Trump off the hook for how he traffics in that patriarchy and that misogyny and that misogynoir, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? In other words, the people who identify with Donald Trump because Donald Trump gets to do whatever he wants, because of that bravado, because of that hyper masculinity, because of that really toxic masculine energy, the people who appeal to that, they have a different vision of what liberation looks like. They have a different vision of what freedom looks like. For them, freedom and liberation rests in Black men being as unaccountable, as violent, as harmful, as toxic as white patriarchal masculinity permits white men to be. It's why when Bill Cosby gets locked up, they say, "Oh my God, that didn't happen to Harvey Weinstein." When they say that, they're not calling for Harvey Weinstein to get treated like Bill Cosby. They're calling for Bill Cosby to get treated like Harvey Weinstein. The lack of accountability, the ability to harm, the lack of punishment, the lack of accountability. This is what we're talking about. And so when we talk about, in a real way, why Black men are, to the extent that they are, appealing to the Trump movement, that's not about Democrats emasculating Black men. There's nothing emasculating about promoting Black women. There's nothing emasculating about supporting or appealing to Black women. When the Democrats say, hey, we're going to put Ketanji Brown Jackson at the Supreme Court, or we're going to make Kamala Harris VP. Yes, you can make an argument that it's a cynical appeal to identity politics, but you could also make the case that Black women are the reason Joe Biden became president. They're the ones who organized. They're the ones who registered to vote. They're the ones who did the labor. And because they did the labor, because they organized, because they did that work, they were rewarded. That's what politics in America is supposed to be, right? You fight for your stuff and then you get your stuff. So what we need to think about is how we can become a more organized and energized voting base that then makes demands of people. Don't just vote for Democrats because they're Democrats. Vote for Democrats because they meet your demands. Vote for Democrats because you're going to leverage your power to get things done, whether it's ending this war in Palestine or excuse me, this genocide in Palestine, or whether it's getting reparations here in the United States, whether it's getting reproductive justice here in the United States, whatever the thing is, we got to do it. I'm not telling people you got to vote Democrat. I'm saying you got to make an organized political movement. And to say that this is about the Democrats emasculating Black men, I don't think that's right. I think it's about Donald Trump presenting a very toxic, white supremacist, patriarchal vision that too often becomes appealing to the oppressed. Someone said, my uncle loves the devil because the devil gives him nothing. Right? You learn to identify with your open enemies. You learn to identify with the people who hate you. And you want to be like them because they become your vision of freedom. They become your vision of humanity. It's a Paulo Freire talked about. Also, repedagogy of the oppressed, right? He said, for the oppressed to be is to be like, and to be like is to be like the oppressor. So it makes you other than your own self. When that happens, Donald Trump becomes appealing. So I love Nina Turner. That's my sister. I appreciate her. But I agree with like 90% of the analysis. But that 10% that doesn't end with patriarchy, but ends with the Democrats being emasculators, that's dangerous language. Not because I want to defend the Democrats. You can trash the Democrats. There are lots of reasons to criticize the Democrats. I just don't think that's the right point. And that's all I got to say about that. All right, y'all, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, there's another story I want to talk to y'all about. I'll see y'all in a minute. Peace. Peace, family. It's your brother, Marc Lamont Hill. Welcome back to Night School. Once again, if you're joining us right now, jump in the chat. Let us know where you're from. Don't forget to hit all the buttons. I'm talking about like, I'm talking about subscribe. I'm talking about going to social media and becoming a follower of the Instagram page, Night School MLH. Do all the things because we need your help. I want to talk to you about another story before we go. It's an important one. And it's one that I'm telling y'all about right now, so that y'all don't be surprised by it. A potentially deadly new virus has reached the United States. It's the Otopuche virus, also known as sloth fever. It's typically found in South American countries, but it was reported in Florida that 9 new cases developed in Florida due to international travel. And now it's gone from Florida all the way up to New York, where we have a confirmed case this week of sloth fever. This is not something to take lightly. This is not something to ignore. And we have a long history in this country, and even in recent history, of ignoring some of the most urgent medical matters and thinking it's not a big deal. And I don't want y'all to be surprised by this one. All right? Again, sloth fever. It's a virus that is transmitted by animals like sloths, and it goes from them to mosquitoes, and then it goes from mosquitoes to humans. And the symptoms look like fevers, chills, headaches, muscle aches, joint pain, nausea, vomiting, and fatigue. So it can look like some different things, but be mindful of those symptoms. There's no cure for sloth fever, and the CDC says that it usually resolves itself within a few days. There are more serious cases, by the way, where people have died from sloth fever, but as far as we know, those cases have been tied to age and underlying conditions. So as of now, you may not die from it, but it is serious and it does spread. And I'm telling y'all this for a couple of reasons. I know a lot of times, especially since COVID, people don't trust the CDC. I understand why. Public health is political as much as it is medical. So you always have to be mindful of that. But because of that, there are a lot of people who ignore viruses, who ignore medical reports, who don't protect themselves, who don't pay attention to symptoms. I'm asking you all, pay attention to the symptoms, pay attention to what's going on, be mindful, protect yourselves, and see a doctor. See a doctor, see a healthcare professional if something happens that you don't quite know how to make sense of. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. I hope it makes sense, y'all, because I'm trying to make sense. All right, one more story before we go, and it's a sad one. And it's one that I totally relate to and feel very upset about. Mariah Carey suffered 2 gigantic losses this past weekend. She confirmed that her mother, Patricia, as well as her sister, Allison, died tragically on the same day. There you see a picture of Mariah Carey's sister. And once again, you can see here a picture of Mariah's mother. Both of them tragedies, absolute tragedies. Patricia was 87 and reportedly living in an assisted care facility in Florida. Allison was 63 and in hospice care in, I believe, New York City. Again, both very sad cases. The causes of death are not known, but Mariah Carey did issue a statement saying that she is, quote, heartbroken, and she thanked everybody for support, but asked for privacy at this time. Death is tough, man. My father died 3 years ago. And the day we buried him, we got home and my sister died that night, or maybe like 2 a.m. Not quite the same thing. Both of them died the exact same day, but I understand what it's like to be dealing with multiple losses. Many of you are dealing with multiple losses. And many public-facing people try to keep powering through, where they still feel a duty to their fans or their colleagues or their students or their whatever their thing is, right? So I'm glad Mariah Carey is taking time away for herself. I'm glad that Mariah Carey is pulling out, and I hope that people give her the space to be in grief, give her the space to be silent, give her the space to not be okay. And I hope that she gets whatever support and help she needs as she's dealing with this tragedy. And I hope everyone out there who's dealing with tragedy, because everybody's dealing with loss, pain, trauma, grief. I ask everybody to find mental health professionals, find counselors, find therapists, find support to get what you need to be okay. Because I need everybody to be okay. All right, family, that's it for Night School tonight. I want to thank you all for watching. Please do me a favor, hit that like button right now if you haven't done it already. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't done it already. When you hit the like button, you let the YouTube algorithms know that you're rocking with us and that corporate media ain't the only game in town. Do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, because when you do that, you increase our social media footprint, which then allows us to get the content out to more people. And also, if you're so inclined, hit that join button. When you hit the join button, you become a monthly paid member of the channel. There's multiple levels from bronze all the way up to diamond. Anyone you choose, we're grateful for. But please understand, it is your financial support that makes this channel happen. That's how we're able to have Night School every night. That's how we're able to have office hours. That's how we're able to have Coffee and Books on Saturday at 9 a.m. That's how we're able to have the Classroom in a Cell with political prisoner Mumia Abu-Jamal at 9 a.m. on Sunday. So please consider becoming a monthly member of the channel. But also, if you can't make a monthly commitment, make a one-time commitment. You can come in and make a one-time commitment whenever you want. Just make one for the month. We're nearing the end of August. Think about it as your monthly tuition payment. Go to Cash App, go to PayPal, go to Venmo, go to Zelle, and make that one-time payment. If You give $1. We are grateful. There's no amount too small. It's not embarrassing. It's not insulting. We will take the dollar. If it's $1 million, we are grateful. We are ecstatic if you give $1 million. We might even give you a shout out. And anything in between $1 and $1 million, we are grateful for. But if everybody right now watching were to give $10, if everybody watching right now were to give $10, if you go to Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, or Zelle, the platform links are right there on the screen. If everybody gave $10, we would meet our financial goals for the month. We'd be able to pay our bills. We'd be able to pay our staff. We'd be able to get the content out. We'd be able to work on building that studio. We'd be able to make sure that you get everything that you get every single night here absolutely for free. So please, please, please consider making a donation right now on one of those platforms. But even if you can't, keep liking, keep subscribing, keep sharing, and most of all, keep studying, because that is what night school is all about. Wait. I'm sorry. Before we go, I got to shout y'all out, man. Kime Obayade Acosta, who I met yesterday, just gifted 5 memberships to the channel. Thank you. Amos Leak said, DP liberalism makes it very difficult to love being a Black heterosexual man and support progressive Black women. Gender war is alive and well. I agree. And we're going to talk about tonight during the live Q&A session, which is coming up tonight at 11, along with the War in Gaza report, both coming up tonight after 11 o'clock. D. Marie just gave $10 super sticker. Thank you. Isaac Hempsey gave 5. And I got to shout out this person right here. My brother Chad Zichterman just gifted 50 memberships. 50 memberships, Chad. I love you, my brother. Thank you so much. I was hoping to catch you on a call yesterday, but thank you so much for that generous donation. Everybody, this is how we build the channel, through generous donations like Chad's and Kime's and Amos's and Isaac's and D's. I'm grateful. I can't tell you a 1,000 thank yous, Chad. 1,000 thank yous to everybody watching. Stay with me tonight at 11. We're going to do the War on Gaza report, and we're going to do a live Q&A after that. Stay with me. I'll see y'all later. Peace.